Welcome to Between Product and Partnerships, a podcast focused on bringing together product, partnership, and engineering leaders to discuss how to build, support, and scale SaaS ecosystems. This podcast is presented by Pandium, an integration platform for building native integrations.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for listening to our podcast, Between Product and Partnerships, where we talk everything about the challenges and what it takes to build integrations, tech partnerships, and SaaS platforms. And today, I'm super excited to have Stephanie Neill, Head of Product at Stripe, join the podcast. Stephanie, why don't you give us a little bit about your background?
Well, thanks for having me, Christina. It's great to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, so a little bit about me. So I am a product person by trade. I've worked across, I guess, like some of the internet's biggest properties and started my career in an e-commerce space, sort of content marketplace situation where I got to work with Lionsgate. I got to work with New York Times, just a ton of really storied properties. I loved it. I've always loved product management as sort of an approach to life in a way. But I started to feel a little bit disconnected from the actual work of just sort of working on making the numbers go up and to the right, if you will. So at some point in my career, I decided I wanted to look for something where I could find meaning and connection to the impact of my work, right? Because product management is all about impact. And so I wanted to know that I was changing people's lives in a more meaningful way. So I started looking around and I actually found a role inside the United States government with United States Digital Service. And for those of you who don't know, that's an outfit created by President Obama. I think it must have been like 2011-ish because it was around healthcare.gov when that fell over. He was like, we need to do some things differently here. Anyway, so he stood up United States Digital Service, USDS, which basically partnered private sector talent with the public service workforce to deliver services people need. So I joined that group and I found really what I love, which is like applying the product management sort of like mental framework to people who have deep, meaningful need, where you can create impact that feels that you can connect with, right? And so I led the Homeland Security Group through a tumultuous time, but delivering services for the American people and our guests and basically the most vulnerable folks that the government serves. And then after that, I actually ended up joining Amazon's Twitch, which that might feel, I just talked a lot about, I wanted to build products that like were deeply meaningful. And then you're like, Twitch, isn't that just like TV, like live streaming for Gen Z? And the answer is like sort of. So there it is like a live streaming software where it's largely entertainment. However, underneath that, or if you like, I guess once you spend time with the communities, you start to realize it's actually like a place where people find their people, which is deeply meaningful, right? Like it's where people sort of refine identity and like find others who share their identity, which like across the world, like it's not always easy to find people you connect with. So that sort of connection was really meaningful. And then I also, for most of my time there, I was heading up the product team for monetization. And so there was like an added layer of like, these creators are building their business and we're basically making it so they can make a living doing what they love. And then somewhat recently, I guess like 2 years ago now, I actually left and I joined Stripe to sort of carry on that thread of, helping people make a living doing what they love or doing what they're passionate about. And of course, Stripe, it's, or maybe you don't know, but it's payments infrastructure, it's e-commerce infrastructure for the internet, basically. So the mission is to grow the GDP of the internet. And it's all about basically like making the like leveling the playing field so people can start up their own businesses and earn money and, basically live the life they want to, regardless of where they are.
That government job sounds really interesting. I feel like we could do like a whole thing about that. Like, I gotta ask, how did you find that job? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing I didn't know that was a department that existed at any point.
Oh, yeah. No, so I feel like I got really lucky. And I feel like one of the lessons in life is like the more people you know, the luckier you get because like someone has heard
Yeah.
something and they can connect you. But so I grew up as a State Department kid, so government connected, and I grew up all over the world, met a lot of people. Actually, it was in college though in LA where I met my best friend, and let's see, I guess I had been in the workforce for a few years, maybe like 6 or 7 years. And I was complaining to her about like, oh, I feel soulless and like it's fun, but it's like what am I really doing? Like I'm working on the whipped cream of the internet. Because I think I was like working on shopping sites or something. And she's like, well, my friend just emailed me about this thing, and I know you have this government connection. Like maybe that'll be meaningful for you. And then she forwarded me an email where her friend was like, "Hey, I just became an engineer at this cool place called USDA." And so yeah, it was like word of mouth, I guess. But I agree with you. I feel like it was such a stroke of luck that like I found that in that time, and it was quite near the beginning. I think USDS. Yeah, I think it started maybe 2012 or something. So it's like I guess it was 2016, but it took a while to start growing.
Yeah, and I bet, and we won't. Again, I think we could do like a whole episode just about this, but like I bet the pace maybe isn't the right word, but just like the maybe the delivery cadence. I'm just picturing like when I've worked with really large companies and also worked with some
Yeah.
government entities, it is very different than working with like a small startup or even something like a Stripe. I wonder if that was like some culture shock or if it was actually like surprisingly nimble. Like I don't and to back up. Well, it's interesting because we had someone else on our podcast who worked with the FDA. So she didn't
Yeah.
work for the FDA, but she does like
Yeah.
bio stuff and was talking about getting like approvals through the FDA. And she was saying it's actually like can be really fast, like which was surprising to me. I just assumed that everything was going to
Yeah.
be slow and crappy the entire time. I'm curious, yeah, that we could dive into other things. So I'm curious what your sort of experience was, if you're able to comment on it.
No, totally. So I guess there wasn't culture shock because I kind of knew what I expected. And I think the way I would articulate it is more like the way government breaks down problems is much meatier, like it's heftier. Like when you're in tech, you slice it down to like really the tiniest, narrowest thing that will solve a very discrete problem. And then you keep kind of like layering on top. Whereas like in government, like they'll have a roadmap out 5 years and like they'll be very confident in it. And like they've just chunked out these like massive problems for delivery. So that was sort of one of the key distinctions, I guess, that I observed. But at the same time, it's understandable. Like there's a bunch of different factors that can go into it, but it's like, I think it's like hard when you're in government. It's so like regulated, and like the consequences of making a wrong choice are so serious, right? Like it can be life or death. And so people take everything really seriously. And it's hard to know all the like written rules. And so a lot of times like word of mouth will become, like, oh, well, I've heard you can't talk to users directly. It's illegal. And then you're like, really? And then you're like, let's look into that. And then, and so I think there's a lot that can sort of build into this like less nimble culture. But I think there are some reasons that are good, which is you have to really understand like the implications of your choices up front.
Yeah, move fast and break things does not apply to like literally everything, maybe. Especially when it comes to like government services. But I digress. Again, I feel like we could get into like a whole bunch about that. That's like a segment of the economy that I just know so little about through direct experience. Like I feel like I'm a spectator and everybody's got an opinion when we're watching the evening news or like trying to deal with filing taxes or like whatever it is or signing up for the ADA or whatever or the ACA rather.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just missed the fact that you were involved in that. So just wanted to get that out of the way.
So no, I'll say it's the best work I've ever done in my career. I would have stayed forever, but not me, but the people who incubated USDS intentionally made it term limited because we didn't want people coming in and basically becoming sort of like because you're kind of closed off from like software. Tech moves really fast and the government doesn't move as fast, so you come in and you kind of freeze a little bit, and it's like
Mhm.
you didn't want people staying and then becoming part of that problem. And so it was like we want people to go out and like come back in and bring fresh upon return, if you will.
That's such a nice, thoughtful way to think about staffing too. My God, don't we love to see it? All right, so let's talk about something that is move fast and break things. We'll talk about machine learning and AI because I know that you have a lot of experience there, a lot of thoughts there, maybe a lot of like hands-on today.
Okay.
Um, so maybe just starting at the very top, and this is something that I have experienced over the past like 2 years, which is the impulse for companies, maybe from the board, maybe not from the board, but from
Mhm.
leadership to use AI. Just use AI, use AI in something. And I feel like even just since we originally spoke, maybe like a month ago, there's been like a shift already around like it just moves so fast. Of like maybe that wasn't the right thing. Maybe AI is not supposed to be like the panacea. But I'm curious if you hear folks talk about that in that sort of way of like I'm being told to use AI, I don't actually know what I'm supposed to be doing
Yeah.
and how you like to position that in your mind when you have folks that say they're being told to use AI and like they're not really entirely sure what that means or what
Yeah.
to do next.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is a broad problem, or broad sort of like state we find ourselves in. I remember, so I'm on a government listserv too, and I remember someone was like, "We shouldn't tie funding to like AI as a solution. Like, you must use AI in order to get this funding. It should be tied to the problem, right?" But I'll say also, with my PMs over the past year, just working in Stripe, we work on a tax software. We've all been like, okay, like let's get our hands dirty, let's start using because like the tools are changing so much and they're getting so much more powerful. And so it's important for us as product people to use it and understand, okay, like how can this help me solve real problems? But I even hear that from my PMs of like, well, it can't make production ready code. So like, why are we messing with it? And I'm like, well, what else can it do? Like, let's explore. So I guess I guess what I'm saying is like it happens sort of broadly, like industry wide, and then maybe like less tech savvy places. But then even when you get on the ground, like there are PMs out there who are asking these types of questions too, even though it's like a huge part of our job to understand and adopt new technologies and think about how they can help us be more impactful. So yeah, the way that I think about it, I guess it doesn't really change. I mean, it's like I'm always like, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And does it drive sustainable change, right, for like the people we're trying to solve it for? And I think the job now is thinking through like what are good use cases for ML, like for these new technologies that can basically get us to that better end state faster, or to a better end state maybe, and or more efficiently faster. But at the end of the day, like it's like what is the problem we're trying to solve, and like can any technology help us?
And how do you think about problems that AI or ML might be good at solving as it stands today versus those that maybe it's not a good fit or can be solved easier, faster, cheaper without using AI? Like
Yeah,
where I don't know if you have like a framework in your mind or just like broad themes of the types of problems that you
yeah,
feel like there's applicable um, AI technology that currently exists.
yeah, yeah. That's a good question. I think the problem spaces where I've seen it be effective, primarily have been, I would say, product discovery, helping you to basically, you've identified a problem. Because okay, so in product management, there's sort of like two key parts to product development. It's like, am I solving the right problem? Am I solving this problem right? And it's sort of like a discovery space and then a solution, or sorry, like a problem discovery and then a solution discovery space, right? And I feel like problem discovery, like the research, the feedback, like a lot of the LLM tools are super good at like helping you beat up your thinking, helping you find gaps, helping you conduct research, helping you do analysis. Like, so I think that it can be super valuable there. And then the second part, the vibe coding, this is where vibe coding I think comes in handy, where you can go in and you can start building out different ideas and then actually start usability testing these. And in some cases, you can kind of hook them up and like do like janky tests, you know what I mean? Or sorry, not super janky, but you can run tests with real users, right? Because the first thing, like product development is all about reducing risk. Like, so you want to reduce the risk on like, is this a good problem? Like, is it painful for the user and is it good for my business? And then on the solution, like, does it actually solve their problem? Do they understand what's happening? Like, are we going to get them there? And I would say historically, like that, those two pieces each take a lot of time. And I think that AI really helps shrink on both ends. And especially with the solution, with the vibe coding solution testing, it's like you would previously have to really invest a fair amount of time. And so by shrinking that time, you just have a lot more at bats, like more chances to be wrong until you're finally right, and then you build that thing. So I think those are probably the two big ones. And then I would add a third category, which is like you can get agents to do a lot of things that don't, in my opinion, that don't require well, actually everything you're getting AI to do still requires human judgment. Like even like the research, even, writing, whatever, you still have to go through and like with a fine tooth comb. But it's like all those sort of like repetitive tasks, like where you have to, I guess, you have to like hunt and peck, or you have to compile information, you have to like think through all of that. It can do a ton of the legwork. Like we built a tool here at Stripe that helps with deal qualification, and it basically will reach out and like pull, everything we know about a certain user, everything that we know, or the questions we would normally run through to see like, is this a good fit for sales, or should they disqualify it early? And so like we built out a tool, and it's significantly helped the team's productivity. And that was something that used to take them hours and hours to do per week, right? So just sort of these like repetitive types of tasks where then, there's like where then a human can make a judgment and run is like, it's just hugely helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting where you were talking about like the human oversight and human in the loop. I've been following when I see pieces of content and stuff come up about the potential for a shift in entry level type of white collar work as it relates to AI, and like, are we going to have entry level, like in its current form, white collar work in the future, or is it all going to be automated away? And I was reading something, and it was making the case that like you do need a human in the loop, and that's the perfect thing for like your most junior entry level employee to do, monitor all your agents. And I was like, that feels like the junior person monitoring like even the dumber junior like the dumbest junior person that you have, which is the computer. Like that really didn't round it out to me, but it does like, it does beg the question, like, what is that going to look like in the future, right? Like what you're describing, and I totally agree, you need human oversight. And like, everyone I'm sure that works at Stripe at this point, almost even the most junior folks, are entering into an environment that is not 100% AI, because that's not a world that we live in yet. But like, what happens when so much of this task work is automated? Like, what type of human being is going to be the person that you're looking for to provide oversight to the agents? I don't know. I don't think there is an answer yet, but I do feel pretty confident that it's not like get your interns to monitor your agents. Like that feels like really not. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like you do just need a human to like just be there to like press enter every once in a while. But it does, to me, it feels like it would be the opposite, right? Like the agents are replacing so much of that work that like someone who is not really super well experienced is doing. And you need someone who has a little more experience. Yeah. Just like, with engineering now, we're saying like engineers are actually code reviewers now more than they are just like keyboard jockeys. And like that makes sense to me, right? Yeah. But I don't think you want to let loose like your most junior person to be the one providing the oversight for the robot. But yeah, I'm curious where you land. Like I'm riffing.
I definitely wonder, because so I have seen models, of like, oh, this is the future. And it's like basically like execs at the top and then super ICs under them, and then tons of agents. And like the super IC is the one managing the agent. But my intuition tells me that there is at least like a lengthy interim step in my mind where maybe these like junior people are the ones who are managing the agents and like building the agents, and they just don't have like the experience or the intuition, but they start to build that, right? So it's like they apply their judgment. Their judgment is checked and corrected, and they learn. And then the models learn, right? And then, so I don't know. I think there's there's something interim happening there. But I think it does make sense. Like it's like a new style of it's like a new form of learning, right? Like for us, and it'll challenge us in I think ways that we haven't seen yet. If you're managing like fleets of agents, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this is definitely obviously like a seismic shift in the way work, digital type of work, computer work is done. And my hope from an engineering perspective, especially, is that like this will allow folks to not have to do the equivalent of sitting on an assembly line, just like pulling a lever
Yes.
every 30 seconds for their entire life, right? Like they'll be able to focus on things that are more cognitively interesting and
Yeah.
have a higher sort of barrier to entry when it comes to like creative thought. I'm interested to see how long it takes us to get there, and also like what that path looks like, if
Oh,
that makes
100%.
sense.
I think there is no shortage of like I run a PM team and I also have a sizable ops team that includes like tax experts, and I would love to apply AI there. I think there's like or we're in the process of applying like AI to different use cases there. And what I intentionally make clear to the employees is like, listen, like there's so much high value like knowledge work that I need you doing on top. Free up your time so you can just have like stronger, greater impact in a way that you can uniquely provide. And I firmly believe that that is there and it will be there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I'm curious what your take is on this. A lot of this also, especially when it comes to like doing math, right? Or like taxes, which is a bunch of rules, very complex rules. You can get creative with those rules as a human, but like there is just like math and rules involved. A lot of this relies on data, like really potentially
Yes.
large volumes to have patterns, right? And always just like clean inputs, which I feel like is going to be a challenge for a long time. For companies like Stripe, you guys are probably in a great position because you are getting all of that, all of those numbers more or less like from the source, right? And like you guys are the source of truth, but a lot of companies don't have, clean digital access to that type of data, companies in other industries, or they're too new, where you don't have the like years, many months or years of consistent data to be able to feed into a model, in my opinion. I'm curious like how you think about the role of data hygiene, and like the
Yeah.
current state of the world when it comes to enabling folks to use AI and ML to the model's full potential.
Yeah. In my opinion, this is like the greatest limiters because what's the saying? Garbage in, garbage out, right? I think this is the greatest limiter right now. And yes, I think some companies are certainly in a better state, I think, than others. And I think Stripe is in pretty good shape. But like on my product, for instance, so we have to do a lot with tax rules and regulations, which change, and we have to rely upon jurisdictional government's data, which you might imagine is not as in as tip top shape. And so but like it's not as cut and dry. It's always complex. And again, I see it as like one of the bigger rate limiters, because um, it is hard to clean up and leverage data, especially when you don't control it directly.
Do you have challenges with that in your current role, or maybe with folks that you've worked with outside of Stripe, with the sort of the universe understanding that as a limiter? And I ask this because we integration platform, all we do is data all day,
Mhm.
every day. Like I have been knee deep in data of all different types of industries, all different types of volumes, all different types of patterns, like for 20 years. So I am not a data analyst, but like I can tell you all the whack patterns people have come up with. And when I talk to folks, especially like really hardcore AI evangelists,
Mhm.
I think there's a very large disconnect between me and them sometimes around the severity of this as a limiting factor, so to speak. That like it could be really, really hard to get some of that, just to get access to some of it, and then to try to understand what it actually means in a programmatic way, right? And I'm wondering too with Stripe, like, are you guys actually trying to get like flat files from some of these jurisdictions to like update your tax codes? Because that's like a world that I've lived in a long time ago. But yeah, I'm wondering, like, I'm also maybe really far on the end of like this is a difficult problem because I'm like steeped in it all day, every day. But I'm wondering if you feel like there is a perception that this problem is real or not real, or where you sort of personally even land on the severity is not the right word. That makes it sound very
Yeah.
fatalistic, but the size maybe of the issue.
Well, I think so. I haven't actually gotten into this debate deeply with people. And I think it's because we're still kind of at the point, like the human judgment must prevail point. And yes, don't forget, there are hallucinations, we're still at the point where it's like, there is a grain of salt and it's like, this is helpful. This is good. Look how powerful. Look how close this is. But it's like, I don't think anyone's looking at it and being like, okay, this is production ready. Like we've been working on, like the taxpert bot, to help people basically through, we can't give tax advice, but we want to help them just work their way through the tax world, which is really intimidating and awful. And there are a lot of common questions that we can give guidance on. Although I think we don't call it guidance, but we can help people through it. But we haven't released it yet. We haven't made it external. And actually our first plan is to release it for our internal support teams and stuff. Because again, it's like even though we've spent quite a bit of time training, giving input, and it is really actually shockingly good. It's not, it's the grain of salt, right? So I think since we're kind of there, it's like not the problem yet. I think it'll become a bigger problem when I think people are becoming more reliant on the letter of the law that they're getting from AI. I think that'll become a different story in my mind.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like there's been this cultural shift over the past couple of months where it was like a lot of this stuff hit prime time, 2 years ago ish, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's genius! The AI bot is amazing. It's going to replace all of our jobs. That also sucks." And then there was the actual practice of it for a few years, and there was still that the novelty of
Yeah.
what it was doing. And now, in this moment, in the year of our Lord 2026, in February, I feel like there is a little bit of that grain of salt has become a little larger. It's more coarse grain in a way that I actually think is very healthy, because people have tried, they had a year or so of messing around with it and kind of pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And now we're back in a world where the technology is evolving. It's evolving really fast. And I'm not
Yes.
going to say it's not. And I think it's amazing. We use all this stuff here internally. We have AI in our product, all that. But there is to your point, that's not production ready code. I feel like 18 months ago, there was less of that conversation.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
prime time, put it in, push it to prod. We're good to go. I don't need to do anything. I'm taking a vacay. And I actually, again, I think that's a healthy
Yes.
sort of
Yes.
rebound effect.
Yes.
And it also maybe that rebound effect, I'm observing that, and you maybe, it sounds like, are observing that because we work in technology, right? So we're working with people that tried it really early and had the bumps, and now are it's normalized a little bit. I do wonder how the rest of the universe outside of our weird little tech, bubbles that we operate in just by virtue of being software people. I wonder if that same feeling has kind of permeated down to your average user of some of this stuff. And I was at a breakfast a couple weeks ago, and a woman was telling me she just graduated from college, and she was saying that she uses Chat GPT for literally everything. She doesn't Google anymore. She uses it constantly. And she was saying that she could tell that it's making her feel dumber. She's like, I'm
Oh,
not using critical thinking. And even though I know it's wrong, I just keep going to it. And I'm like, that is just a different, from what you're saying, there's a grain of salt. And I'm like, I agree. But I
yeah.
wonder if everybody has that grain. I don't know. I don't, again, because my bubble, my professional bubble is very
Yeah.
large with tech.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, yeah. I guess I feel for her.
Yeah. She was very honest about it. She was like, I hate it, but I keep doing it. I was like, all right.
Well, but maybe she's actually developing judgment of when not to trust it, right? Maybe that's actually what's happening. So maybe that's kind of a good thing. Maybe she is becoming more, and I guess the scale of impact feels luckily small. Hopefully she can't whereas if we're, in tech, we in tech are building it into a product, it could potentially have much greater, No, that is interesting. What I will say is using sort of the chat client, like LLM interfaces, that feels like casual usage. But when you go a little bit deeper with these tools, you very quickly realize how far they have to come because of the amount of time you spend debugging, right? So it's like, I think anyone who really has like gotten their hands dirty and gone sort of like that, like that double click down, I think like quickly gets a sense of like, okay, so like we've got time. We've got time in this phase, or like there's more that needs to change here. I don't know about, it's hard to say, like, I mean, for like casual or like broad adoption, mass adoption of like ChatGPT and stuff. I do like to believe that people like your friend are actually inherently like learning the edges and like and using their judgment because I know, I mean, like I was using it once my son had like a really sore neck and he was like screaming and screaming. And I was like asking it like, what could this be? Like doing medical diagnostic, of course. And it's like, take him to the hospital right away, right away.
Meningitis.
Like, yeah. It said meningitis. Yeah. Did we talk about this already?
No, I just, I'm thinking, what's the worst case scenario? Definitely meningitis.
And it was like, don't move him. Don't do this. And I was like, it's wrong. Like, and so now I'm like, when I use it, I'm like, okay, like it's an extremist. It does this, it does that. So yeah, but hopefully that's happening in her case and she maybe doesn't know it.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's like, again, I think about this stuff, like watching the Super Bowl ads and like seeing all the AI stuff in there. And like, meanwhile, like, the next day on Monday, we come in and like, we're over here fighting with some model to like get it to do exactly what we want it to do. And like the Super Bowl would have you believe that like the ads, like every person is being replaced. We're all going to go like hang out on an island somewhere and everything is going to be this like robot utopia. And just like the difference there, and like those commercials were probably began being produced 2-3 months ago, maybe longer, when like the perception is so different still, right? Like it moves so fast. And Stripe is obviously like almost a household name. Like I wouldn't say it's a household name like a Walmart, but it's a big you are running a company that people know, right? And so the responsibility for you guys to like get it right is so huge. And I'm wondering, and then I think we're coming up on the end of time, but how do you know? How do you like, when do you feel confident in like putting this in someone's hands, in a customer's hands, not an internal person?
Well, we're definitely not there yet, as I mentioned.
So maybe we don't know yet.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't quite know. I mean, because like obviously Stripe as a company has to take this stuff super seriously. Whenever you're even close, like even at Twitch, like we took it extremely seriously because whenever you're messing with someone's money, and this is true for any type of product development, whether you're leveraging AI or not, right? Like, so even like at Twitch, like making changes to our subscription on like how we assign out gift subscriptions to people, like could have material impact on the creators who are making a life on that platform or on that service, I should say. And so, whenever you're messing around with people's money, you take it super, super seriously. And, I think I would say like we're largely at the phase of, using it for internal purposes that, result in like external change but there's like the human judgment must prevail still, right? So we do have like these things called minions going through and like, and doing pull reviews and everything, PRs. And, but then we have engineers reviewing, making sure it is like good and sound and going to be a net benefit and then pushing. So it is helping, I would say, efficiency significantly, and actually probably quality as well, but it is not like a runaway train. I think there's going to be serious guardrails to make sure that we're making safe choices for our users.
I think dog fooding / drinking your own champagne, however people want to say it, is like the best. Like I also, in my own experience, like if you have great folks, especially like engineers and product folks that work for you, like they have a really high bar for it, not just working, but like doing what is right for the user. And I think that when folks are like, we release a thing, we don't really use it in house. I'm like, oh, like I'm always like, we dog food everything, especially because like we're a dev tool, right? So like, and you guys are to a great extent as well. Like our engineers should be able to be the power users of these things. And if it's frustrating to them, it's going to be super frustrating to our customers. And same thing with our AI stuff, right? Like we have been using it internally for way longer than external. And, when we see the efficiency gains and we feel like we can put our own faces behind it and our own brand, that's when it goes out. But even then, there's like the grain of salt of like, and make sure you look at this before.
Yeah.
And again, luckily, like our users are engineers, so I think they will look at it. But I do, I do wonder for like more consumer focused type products. Like, I think that threshold is even higher, right?
Yes.
When you don't have folks that come at it naturally with a skeptical eye, like a lot of engineers have a habit of doing.
Yes.
Which I love. So I think we're coming up on time, but I want to ask one final question. So you have been in product forever. You have a very large team now at a very notable company. And I'm curious if you have like one resource or habit that helps you stay grounded and sane in the insanity of like your day-to-day product role.
Oh gosh. I feel like I say it enough that it's a habit. And I said it a couple times early in the podcast. But just reminding people, like, what is the problem we're really trying to solve? Because it's so easy to drift. It's so easy to lose sight and overbuild or underbuild. What is the problem that we're really trying to solve, and who are we trying to solve it for? And like, what is the slimmest sort of solution what is the slimmest way we can solve that problem for them? Because getting that solution that can solve the problem for them in their hands as quick as possible is like, that's what's going to sustain our business. That's what's going to sustain their business in my case. So yeah, I think it's just like often resetting to like, what's the problem we're really trying to solve here? And that helps me stay sane when things can look really, really big.
Yeah. I love the sort of canonical user story. One of the sort of templates, which is like, as a blank, I should be able to blank, or as a blank,
Yes.
I can blank.
Yes.
Like, that is it. Like,
Yes.
my co-founder is famous for saying, like, let's zoom out. Like, what are we actually,
Yes.
what are we really trying to do here? Because to your
Yes.
point, especially if you love the tech too, like you can get like really deep
so
and get really
quickly.
crazy. And I'm like, no. We got to like, let's back way out. And I'm
Yes.
sure with some of the AI stuff, you could really get into ideating and go to a totally different place if you don't. Again, zoom back out. As a blank, I need to blank. And then, I just leave and I'm like, you guys will figure it out. No,
Yeah, you guys are good to go. Just
you're like,
remember,
I'm the boss. I don't care. Like, as a blank, I should blank.
again in 2 days.
Yeah, come on. Let's go. Why isn't it done yet? You guys have AI. It should be finished. Well, this has been super fun. I'm totally going to hit you up when I come out to the West Coast so we can grab a coffee. Where can folks find out more about you? Is there anything you'd like to plug? You guys are doing hiring, anything like that?
We are hiring. Yes. I mean, Stripe broadly is hiring, but my team is also hiring. So if you see any listings with tax, keyword tax, that's my team. And so would love great PMs to reach out. And then I'm at Neill pretty much everywhere. I've been told that that's horrible to spell. Nobody can spell it. So I'll spell it STEPHANEILL. But that's keyword for me everywhere.
Amazing. Well, I'm sure folks can find you on LinkedIn as well. This has been a really fun conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time. For our listeners, if you want to learn more about integrations, product, spicy takes about AI and ML, worksheets, we got ebooks, everything about APIs. You can check out our website, pandium.com. We also have more of our podcast episodes with some great folks with diverse backgrounds, including this one. Again, really appreciate you taking the time. This has been super fun. I feel like we could go forever. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you out there.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed our content, subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. For more content on tech partnerships, integrations, and APIs, check out our articles, ebooks, and other resources in the description or visit Pandium's website.